When a shark is considering a possible meal, it sometimes will saunter up and bump its prey. It's called a shark bump, in order to see how the possible meal will react. Will it be a threat? Will it fight back? Is it yummy? Is it delicious? Does it have any idea what's coming? There's a story out of Richmond, Virginia, to me that feels a little like a massive shark bump on American citizens. Here's what I want you to remember tonight. Our limits are being tested. Are we awake? Are we going to be somebody's meal? The story is about Brandon J. Robb. He's a 26-year-old former Marine. According to relatives, he is a combat veteran in both Iraq and Afghanistan. He had been in FBI custody since last Thursday and was scheduled to be involuntarily held for 30 additional days after what authorities say were ominous Facebook posts saying things like, quote, "The revolution is upon us." Boy, I haven't heard that one before. The revolution is upon us. Okay, he writes that, puts it on Facebook. He's being held at a mental hospital. He was forced to undergo a series of psychiatric evaluations. This was set to go on for 30 days until just a couple of hours ago when a judge ordered his release, saying Robb had suffered deprivation of his liberty because he was being held without a clear charge against him. The system worked. But how did we ever have it go this far? Every family member and every friend says Brandon is definitely not insane, and no one came forward to say he is insane. In the Facebook post we saw, he didn't specify any specific threat to anyone. He just made vague references to revolution, and he talked about taking back the republic. The big crazy thing the media pointed to was a quote where he says, quote, "Sharpen my axe, I'm here to sever heads." He posted it without any other context. The phrase is from a lyric from a Canadian hip-hop song that nobody in the media seems to mind. But in his proclamation, he is pretty clearly anti-war. He says, quote, "Force is not the way because liberty is a powerful concept. The idea that men can govern themselves is the basis for every just form of government." Now, he has no history of violence. He has no history of mental instability. No one thought this guy was going to come out of his house and begin decapitating people with a sword. Yet, until just a couple of hours ago today, he was detained against his will without charge while he was undergoing psychiatric testing. Now, I want to make something extraordinarily clear. I don't agree with him on several things. He appears, one, to be a 9/11 truther. I don't believe that the United States government blew up the World Trade Centers. I think that's madness, quite honestly. I also don't think quoting a song about severing heads is the best way to go. But I defend your right to believe that the federal government blew up the World Trade Center. I defend your right to say that, to make the argument. As long as it's a nonviolent argument, you have a right to say that. And I will defend, unfortunately, your right to say that, because it's important in a democracy and a republic. The question here is, does quoting song lyrics and believing, being a 9/11 truther, does that rise to the level of a 30-day involuntary stay at a mental hospital? I don't have to agree with you to defend you. It's important as Americans we stand up. You have the right to say the things that you believe. Robb was apparently detained after refusing to allow the authorities to search his home without a warrant. Since when is that crazy? Let me get this straight. No Miranda rights, no warrant, no charges, no signs of actual psychiatric problems. Throw in a couple of offensive opinions on Facebook, and that lands you in the mental institution? America, shark bump. The police and FBI decided to act under a rarely used state law that allows, quote, "emergency temporary psychiatric commitments upon the recommendation of a mental health professional." Perfect. Now, I don't know if you know anything about the 1963 list of communist goals from the Communist Party USA, but number 39 came to mind to me today. Number 39 is dominate the psychiatric profession and use mental health laws as a means of gaining coercive control over those who oppress communist goals. If this were an isolated incident, I probably wouldn't be talking to you tonight, at least bringing up the 1963 communist goals. But here's a man who risked his life to defend treasured American principles like free speech, and he was in a mental institution. That is a much scarier proposition than anything anyone could have written on Facebook. He'll be lucky to keep his sanity after all this ordeal. If you want to give the guy a call, you want to knock on his door, you want to pay him a visit and chat with him, that makes sense to me. But 30 days at a mental institution? Searching his house without a warrant, and when he says no, you arrest him? Something is big time not right. The authorities' justification so far has been the recent mass shootings. Remember the recent mass shootings. Okay, that's in Colorado. But the other recent mass shooting, are we talking about Fort Hood? Is that what we're talking about? Because that was a workplace issue. They said, quote, we received a few complaints about what were perceived as threatening posts. This is an FBI spokesperson. Okay, so that's all it takes now to round up citizens. Gosh, by those standards, a lot of people would be in the loony bin, wouldn't they?
You damn right Dick Cheney's heart's a political football. We ought to rip it out and kick it around and stuff it back in him.
Well, I have to tell you, Rush Limbaugh is beginning to look more and more like Mr. Big. And at some point, somebody's going to jam a CO2 pellet into his head. He's going to explode like a giant blimp. That day may come. Not yet. We'll all be there to watch.
I do say that I am for the return of the guillotine, and that is for the worst of the guilty. I first would allow the guilty bankers to pay, the ability to pay back anything over $100 million personal wealth, because I believe in a maximum wage of $100 million. And if they're unable to live on that amount, then they should, go to the re-education camps, and if that doesn't help, then be beheaded.
Okay. People say this kind of stuff all the time. But apparently, you're in danger because you posted one of these on Facebook. Not only are they wrong in Washington, but they seem to be applying this tactic one-sidedly by ignoring people that we see all the time, and the Blaze has reported on relentlessly, like the new Black Panthers.
We have to resist from white supremacy. You can fight this white man. And I'm not telling you to go out here and attack nobody. But in self-defense, it's okay to fight back. We're taught to send this cracker to the cemetery. When he put his hand on us, we sent him to the cemetery in self-defense. Because you should be thankful we're not running around here hanging crackers by nooses and all that kind of stuff yet.
You want freedom? You're going to have to kill some crackers. You're going to have to kill some of their babies. Let us get our act together.
This is old footage. Earlier this week, we had them in another conference call saying that they should throw bombs into nurseries. These are specific threats against a specific group of people. Why are they not being detained and questioned and locked up in a loony bin? Ted Nugent was questioned by the Secret Service for saying this.